Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I am Munib Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the top stories first. In Israel, thousands of people have protested against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in front of his residence in Jerusalem. The protesters demanded Netanyahu's resignation over his government's poor handling of COVID-19 pandemic and alleged corruption. Police arrested 50 people and fired water cannons to disperse the protesters. In Brazil, 1,300 more people have died from COVID-19 in the past 24 hours, raising the toll to over 74,000, while the US has reported 827 more fatalities and 61,000 new cases. The country's death toll has now surpassed 136,000, and the total number of infections is over 3.4 million. In Pakistan, 67 people died overnight, increasing the tally to nearly 5,400, with over 255,000 infections. Worldwide, the death count has reached nearly 578,000, with over 13.2 million cases. China says it will impose retaliatory sanctions against the US president after he signed an executive order to end Hong Kong's special status. In a statement, the foreign ministry said the semi-autonomous territory is China's internal affair and no country has the right to interfere. Earlier, Trump also signed the Hong Kong Autonomy Act, citing Beijing's actions against the former British colony. Flash floods and landslides have killed 16 people and displaced hundreds in the Indonesian island of Sulawesi. Disaster Mitigation Agency spokesperson said 23 people are still missing in the North Luwu district. News in detail after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now, in Israel, thousands of people have protested against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in front of his residence in Jerusalem. The protesters demanded Netanyahu's resignation over his government's poor handling of COVID-19 pandemic and alleged corruption. Police arrested 50 people and fired water cannons to disperse the protesters. Protesters blocked roads and set fire to trash bins in the city centre.
What's wrong with the country right now is our Prime Minister. And I'm not talking about delegations, I'm not talking about anything, it's just everything is falling apart. We're talking about every sector of the country is just falling apart because this guy is a very bad manager.
Well, we must remember Netanyahu faces corruption trial on charges of bribery, breach of trust and fraud. Now moving to Brazil, where 1,300 more people have died from COVID-19 in the past 24 hours, raising the toll to over 74,000, while the United States reported 827 more fatalities with 61,000 new cases. The death toll has now surpassed 136,000 and total infections are more than 3.4 million. Worldwide, the death count has risen to almost 578,000 with more than 13.2 million cases. This report has details.
Many cities around the world have reimposed COVID-19 lockdowns to counter a resurgence of infections. As the World Health Organization warned, there were no shortcuts out of the pandemic. In the Americas, Mexico has proposed to the US an extension to a ban on non-essential travel by land over their shared border for another 30 days, as the US states of Alabama, Florida, and North Carolina reported record increases in daily deaths. Top infectious disease expert Fauci warned the actual number of nationwide cases could be much more.
First question is this just an increase because of testing versus an increase? Well, there's no doubt that it's both. I mean, obviously, the more you test, the more you're going to pick up. So increase in testing is going to give you increases. But there is no doubt that there are more infections. And we know that because the percentage of cases, of the cases that are tested that are positive, is increasing. Therefore, unequivocally, you're seeing truly more new cases.
Doctors in France have reported what they believe to be the first proven case of COVID-19 being passed on from a pregnant woman to her baby in the womb. Paris will also make it compulsory for people to wear masks in shops and public spaces from next month. And Spain's populous Catalonia region made a fresh attempt to put an area of 160,000 people under lockdown to stem a local surge.
The important thing here is to act to stop the outbreak, and anything that takes us away from loses focus. The priority is to act to contain, to control the outbreak. This is primarily the responsibility of Generalitat of Catalonia, and the Spanish government is there to lend a hand in everything that is asked of us. I emphasize, in everything that is asked of us. I must say that the climate of collaboration and the relationship is very fluid.
Meanwhile, in Asia, India's coronavirus cases, the third highest in the world, have passed 900,000 with more than 22,000 known deaths. 133 million people in the northern state of Bihar and the IT hub of Bangalore have entered a new lockdown. South Korea's new coronavirus cases stayed below 40 for the second day in a row, but imported cases continue to rise. However, China is further easing restrictions on domestic tourism after reporting no new local cases of COVID-19 in 9 days.
Meanwhile, in Pakistan's COVID-19 death toll has reached nearly 5,400, with 67 more fatalities in the past 24 hours. The Health Ministry said 2,165 positive cases were reported in the last 24 hours, bringing the total to over 255,000. It said more than 2,100 people recovered from the virus in the past day, raising the tally to over 172,000. The ministry said over 77,000 cases are active in the country. It said the province of Sindh reported the most new infections with 1,151 cases. Punjab province reported 553 infections, while the capital, Islamabad, registered 113 new cases. Meanwhile, the Taliban have released another 11 Afghan soldiers as part of a peace deal signed in Doha. In a statement, the group's spokesperson, Suhail Shaheen, said the soldiers were freed from 3 different provinces. The two sides are required to free a total of 6,000 prisoners under the pact. Meanwhile, the Taliban have once again accused the Afghan government and the United States of violating the pact. In a statement, it said US and Afghan forces continue to carry out airstrikes in non-combat areas. China says it will impose retaliatory sanctions against the US after President Donald Trump signed an executive order to end Hong Kong's special status. In a statement, the Foreign Ministry said the semi-autonomous territory is China's internal affair and no foreign country has the right to interfere. Earlier, Trump also signed Hong Kong Autonomy Act that revokes license exceptions for islands, exports and special treatment for territories' passport holders. While the executive order sanctions individuals responsible for undermining Hong Kong democratic processes, Trump said the territory will now be treated the same as mainland China without any special privileges.
Today I signed legislation and an executive order to hold China accountable for its oppressive actions against the people of Hong Kong. The Hong Kong Autonomy Act, which I signed this afternoon, passed unanimously through Congress. This law gives my administration powerful new tools to hold responsible the individuals and the entities involved in extinguishing Hong Kong's freedom.
Moving on, Egypt, Ethiopia and Sudan have failed to reach an agreement at a new round of talks to regulate the flow of water from the Blue Nile Dam. The Ethiopian Foreign Ministry said an agreement was not reached due to excessive demands from Egypt and Sudan. It did not elaborate but said Ethiopia was willing to show flexibility as talks continue. The African Union launched its mediation effort 2 weeks ago to end the deadlock over the filling and operation of dam. The dam is the centerpiece in Ethiopia's bid to become Africa's biggest power exporter, but has sparked concerns in Cairo that Egypt's already scarce supplies of Nile waters would be further restricted. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and US President Donald Trump have agreed to work closely to ensure lasting stability in Libya. According to Turkish presidency, the two leaders spoke over the phone and discussed bilateral ties and a trade target of $100 billion. Ankara has previously said Washington needs to play a more active role in the Libyan conflict. This comes after Libya's eastern-based parliament approved a motion authorizing neighboring Egypt to directly intervene militarily in the country's war. The legislature backs renegade commander Khalifa Haftar, who has launched a campaign to seize Tripoli from the GNA. Meanwhile, hundreds of protesters took to the streets in Brasilia calling for impeachment of Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro. They were protesting against the president's handling of the ongoing coronavirus pandemic in Brazil. Brazil is the second worst hit country by the global coronavirus pandemic after the US. Bolsonaro himself tested positive for the novel coronavirus last week. Over 74,000 people have so far died from the virus in the country. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan will visit Dayum Basha Dam project today to review the construction activities. The project, with a power generation capacity of 4,500 megawatt, will provide more than 18 billion units per annum to the national grid. During the visit, Prime Minister Imran Khan will be given a briefing on Dayum Basha Dam. The dam is being constructed on River Indus, 315 kilometers upstream of Tarbela Dam. The project is scheduled to be completed in 2028 and 29. The dam will have a gross water storage capacity of 8.1 million acre-feet to irrigate around 1.23 million acres of additional land. Now, US biotech company Moderna's experimental vaccine for COVID-19 is showing encouraging signs in early-stage human trials. Researchers say the vaccine provokes immune responses in all 45 healthy volunteers without any serious unwanted reactions. The results were published in the New England Journal of Medicine. Researchers say 2 doses resulted in the development of high levels of virus-killing antibodies. They said antibodies exceeded the average level seen in people who had recovered from COVID-19. The report said over half of the volunteers reported mild or moderate reactions. Reactions such as fatigue, headache, chills or muscle aches were more likely after the second dose. Moderna was the first company to start human testing of a vaccine on 16th March, 66 days after the genetic sequence of the virus was released. Flash floods and landslides have killed 16 people and displaced hundreds in the Indonesian island of Sulawesi. Indonesia's disaster mitigation agency spokesperson said 23 people are still missing in the North Luwu district. A local official said heavy rains triggered the flooding and caused 3 rivers to overflow, affecting over 4,000 residents of 6 sub-districts. The official said the provincial road is covered in the mud and the landslides have blocked off access to the main command post and the affected areas. Indonesia frequently suffers from floods and landslides, particularly during the rainy season. Earlier in January, flooding killed 66 people in the capital city of Jakarta. More news coming up after a short break. Stay tuned. Asian markets are trading mixed as concerns over escalating tensions between the United States and China weigh on investor sentiment. Investors are pushing a cautious rally as they also follow the latest developments surrounding a potential vaccine for COVID-19. Nikkei 225 is trading higher by over 1.5%. Sales Kospi Index has gained nearly 1%. Shanghai Composite is trading nearly 0.5% lower. Hong Kong's Hang Seng is trading flat. Meanwhile, international benchmark Brent crude oil price has gained nearly 0.5%. Well, that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news. Take care.